Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimesh Radia, and I'm your host. I always love starting this podcast by saying thank you. I feel so very blessed with this podcast, all the people it's reaching. When I started it, my objective was to simplify spirituality and guide people on their journey. And with all the messages I get on a weekly basis, it's clearly having an impact. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I feel very blessed and guided with this podcast. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. I am an Akashic record reader, Akashic trainer, podcast host, podcast creator, as well as a spiritual coach and mentor. And I love guiding people to truly shine their light, be authentically themselves, remove the programming, and just be on this planet. Part of this podcast is always I get to interview some amazing people. And I'm excited to have a very dear friend on this episode who has kind of been part of my journey for the past few years. So I'm glad and excited to have Natasha on this podcast. Natasha, I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
I was a little nervous, and then you were speaking, and I just settled
Love it.
because
Love it.
I do love to see you in action. Um, who am I? That's a tricky one. For work, I'm a psychotherapist. I bring spirituality and psychology together, and but honestly, I used to dread my clients asking me this in sessions. But like, so who are you? And I used to be like, oh, I'm not going to be able to answer it because most people will give identifications. I'm this, I'm that. And I just don't feel like any of those.
I
I
love it.
just, yeah. So I just feel like, I definitely feel like a soul really enjoying her human experience in this moment, which hasn't always been so. But in this moment, I can say that I'm having a lot of fun.
How cool is that? Just being present, just being a soul enjoying the human experience. I love that. I love that. And actually, it feels divinely timed for you to be on this podcast because I really feel that's what we have to do in this moment. There's so much chaos on the planet. And I talk on this podcast about, I feel like the planet's shifted from divine masculine, divine feminine. Divine masculine is all about kind of control, all these wars, power, money. And that is where I feel we've been for many centuries. And I feel like there's an energetic shift that's happened to the divine feminine. And divine feminine is all about heart, being present, spiritual gifts. And I feel like a lot of people are being activated. A lot of spiritual leaders have talked about the shift, whether you call it ascension, whether you call it from third to fifth dimension. And my recommendation is always just to be present, just to be present in the moment. And, Natasha, I've seen your journey, and I love the fact that you have come to this place where we talked about it before we started recording. You are just being present. So when I talk about the shift that's happened on the planet and the shift that's happened in you, how does that make you feel?
Really relaxed. I remember seeing an interview of a famous Rinpoche when I was in my 20s. And the person who was interviewing him asked, like, if there was one thing that he could tell everyone, what would it be? And he said, to be relaxed. And at that point in my naivety and arrogance, I was like, really? That's what you're going to give us? Be relaxed. And now, um, it's just in my own experience, as the angst has kind of evaporated or disappeared, um, you know what? There's a fullness of grace. There is a fullness that is here. I don't experience it as a void. I experience life as empty but full of grace. So, and it's it's only when I'm relaxed can I tap into that.
Nice. So what would your advice be to people who are maybe feeling disconnected to the planet and, kind of feeling the shift, but not really understanding it? How would you advise them to just be? How would you advise them to be that human that's just
Yeah.
enjoying this journey?
Well, I think that a lot of people are in the energy of waiting. When something shifts, when that job comes through, when so and so grows up, when my children grow up, and I think that it keeps us out of this moment a lot. So identifying where in our lives are we living in the energy of waiting. And for me, at least, I've realized that whenever I'm doing that, there's something I'm not loving about my life currently, you know. And so one of my friends had given me this thing of, like, in 2021, where I was going through a lot of angst, and she said, "What are you not loving about this moment?" You know, and and then and that's the work I do as a therapist. Is to help people. We are fantastic beings. We can bear so much more than we think we can bear. And a lot of times our capacity is limited because of certain things we've gone through at a stage where we weren't developed enough to handle it. But now we are as adults. So I actually think that we can bear so much. We can bear our reality, and then we can thrive in it. So all the places in which we are uncomfortable and where we think we can't do it. I sit with my clients who are going through the most difficult thing, and I'm like, you can do this. We've got this. you know there is nothing required, there's nothing lacking in you to not be able to um, come through the other side. So that's one thing that I have found very useful in my own life.
I love it. I love it because I'll always say, and I really believe that the universe, our guides, will never give us anything we can't handle. And everything we need is inside us, all the love, all the joy, all the beauty, and nothing is missing. And I love that. Sometimes we're waiting for something. What are we waiting for? We're a soul having a human experience. But the
Exactly.
whole thing about the human experience is to experience it. So if you're going through something, then that's something you've contracted as a soul, and it's expanding you in some kind of way. And
I
what
mean,
if
I
you
think
could be present in that experience, right?
exactly, but I think, like, I've been spiritual since I was a puppy, since I was really little, and I think that the idea of purpose, the idea of something that I found worthy of something that felt spiritual enough, that felt, um, I don't know. For me, that is what kept me in the energy of waiting. And then the humility. Sri Aurobindo, um, someone asked him, what is the purpose of life? In fact, I asked my son this. I said, why did the one make the many? Why do you think? And he rolled his eyes and he's like, probably to play video games because other boys in his class play video games and he's not one of them, and so he's making fun. And I said, but you're right, it's to play.
Yeah.
And I said, and where do you think that comes from? So Sri Aurobindo was asked, is it desire? And he said, no, it's delight. But for most of my life, when I was younger, I just felt like that just was so frivolous. And I can't tell you how much, Nimish, I remember being in, like, Pondicherry in the Sri Aurobindo ashram and having so much fear. How do I know? Is this my ego or is this my soul? Like, now I just look at that young person and I'm like, it doesn't matter. You will land safely no matter where you go. You can't fall off of God. You can't fall off of
Wow.
the one.
Powerful. Powerful.
Yeah.
Ever since I've known you, it's now how much you're growing up and everything you've been through. It's always kind of felt like you're not part of this planet, but somehow you're trying to belong. And if I tap into your energy, it feels like you've almost let go of that need to belong.
Mm,
How
yeah.
does that sound to you?
It makes me a little emotional because I do feel seen in that way. I think that I wasn't, mm, was I looking for belonging or just really struggling with not belonging? One of those two.
Sure.
And however, the change, is that, um, you know, at some point, Gaia started to feel like a sister instead of mother, and because I kept trying to feel like her child, and it just didn't resonate, and it's not, doesn't come from any place of arrogance or anything. Of course, I'm her child. Everything I'm made of is made
Yeah.
of her,
And
right?
everything's a co-creation, right?
Absolutely. However, something about that, and then also, you know, whatever the narrative, whatever the story, my happiness is 100% my responsibility. And I have everything, whether I'm from this planet or not, to be happy.
Wow.
You know?
It's a choice, right?
Yeah. And I have theoretically known that my whole life. Theoretically, God is, the divine is the bread, the dough, the baker, everything. I knew all that. But I was like, I know I have chosen to be here. So ejecting is not attractive. I know that it's not my purpose. And whether I belong or don't belong, I'm from here, I'm saying it's my not job, but I am answerable to my higher self, to my soul. And I it really is like, having a light, pleasant, like, this is me, much more me, the lighter, the ease, it's much more me than the seeking and the ta-na-na, and the drama and all
The
of that.
busyness, the ego, the voice. Yeah, I love it. It's
Yeah,
so
and
true.
making stories. So I was just like, everything has become simple, you know, just.
And how again, sometimes when I talk, I get the feeling I make things sound super easy. And I get this human experience is a roller coaster, right? It can be. But if you were to guide someone to make life simple, because I really do feel one of the objectives of this podcast was to simplify spirituality. I don't feel it's that complicated. I feel like our search for something outside of us is what complicates it. When actually, if we could find that peace inside, that's where I feel. Um, so, what would your advice be to if somebody wanted to simplify their life and to be present in the moment?
So I think that the trying, I think that someone once told me a few years ago, you have all the knowledge, but you don't have the experience. And she was right. I knew I'd had spiritual experiences, but I hadn't been transformed, and I didn't know them in that way that I was speaking them. And that I have come to see as hypocritical now, for myself. It's not judging someone else, but I realized that no, I can only attest to that what I experience. So
Wow.
for so I feel that a lot of people are taking other people's words, are whether it's a forecast and even an energy forecast, or whether it's more 3D stuff. Um, you've got to ratify it with your own experience, and what you feel is real. So if you're feeling like shit, that's real. And instead of trying to get to a place where you don't feel like it, and so you adopt all these ideas, beliefs, healthy lifestyles. I mean, I've seen yoga do a lot of damage to people. So it's not what you do. It's whether you're using it as a crutch or whether you're doing it, you're just loving doing it, and it's for your well-being in that way. If you need it for your well-being, it's from the same place of I'm not okay, you know.
I
So the
need
thing is, I'm not okay. I have everything it takes to be okay, and so what can I do now? And sometimes it's you've just got to ride the emotional wave, because when I have seen in my life that when I feel differently, the same situation feels absolutely different. Like relationships, the other person's doing nothing, I'm feeling a certain way, a month later I'm feeling differently. The other person hasn't done anything different.
yeah. It's all
you know
about yeah.
it's crazy, it's all about perception. So sometimes riding the wave gives us time and spaciousness to get a different perspective. And sometimes it is about getting the resources together, whether it's people, whether it's going to nature. But I just feel that in psychotherapy also a lot of emphasis has been put on um, getting support. It's almost become a thing, and so I feel that I kind of um, emphasize being able to be that for yourself. And there are times when you have to change the environment, leave a job, do something else,
Yeah.
Um,
But again, it's your intention of why you're doing that, right?
exactly. Because,
And,
like, there's some people I work with, and then it's not about quit your life and quit your job and your life will be perfect. What needs to shift for you to start living that perfect life? And then you will know what to do with the job.
wow, love it. And I guess if I summarize what you're saying, it's just if you're feeling emotion, feel it. How often
Exactly.
when we're feeling an emotion like anger, we try and suppress it and put it down. Of course, don't take it out on other people, but if you're feeling angry, feel angry. You
And
feel
I
like
think
shouting into a pillow, shout into a pillow,
exactly.
just feel the emotion because it's there to teach you something. And this is it. We all have light and darkness. If you push those so-called dark emotions away, then what you're doing is you're giving them power. When you express it, when you feel it, then what you're doing is you are a human you are a soul having that human experience. If we're here
Right.
to experience anger, then let's experience it.
And then we don't know what we are feeling. Like, for me, energy is the bridge between my soul and this world. Like, okay, that feels good, that doesn't feel good. Oh yeah, I'm alive. No, I feel numb. It gives me a radar of how I'm doing, where I am. And when there has been trauma, then again trauma has been overused, I feel. Like, it's become, however, it's real, it's also real. But support, sometimes we need that support to be able to feel the emotion. So as a therapist, I've noticed that just my presence on Zoom, there's nothing else, just my presence on Zoom, my willingness to go there, and my knowing that it's going to be okay, is creates the container for them to be like angry or like grief stricken. So, friends can do that, a tree can do that, the sky does that for me, mountains do that, so
And
yeah.
it's recognizing what how different things make you feel. So if something makes you feel calm, then do more of that. I often ask people, how do they feel about my energy? And this was like, I'm calm, I'm solid. And our energy, our aura is part of our gift, it's part of our who we are. And
Mm.
yes, we can be naturally healing. It's like sometimes we want to learn all these modalities and, kind of heal and fix people. What if we are the gift? What if all these techniques we can learn, of course, learn them, but they are things that on your shelf, modalities that you pull on and use. They don't define who you are. Your energy, your vibration, and just your energy and your vibration on this podcast. And when I feel your energy, is very calming. Very. I want to go back to what you said about Gaia. I felt it was really important. You said the shift with your relationship with Gaia has moved from like a divine mother to divine sister. I feel that's important because a lot of time we put our guides, whether they're ascended masters, etc., we put them on a kind of pedestal, and we feel like they know everything. But for me, it's important to understand that our guides also need guidance. Everything's a co-creation. So what if it is a partnership? What if actually what if we need to recognize and we need to guide them on what we need? Not all of them have a human existence. And, so if we're all one, if we're all part of one energy, but we also souls having a human experience, then we don't need to put anyone on a pedestal. I don't actually feel that God, source, whatever you want to call it, I feel source more next to me than above me. So I love that you said that. And I feel like if we took our guides as more as partners, supporting us, and all being a co-creation. I feel that's more of my relationship with my guides. So I just wanted to point that out. I felt it was important.
Yeah, I think that that's what they want.
Yeah, no, I feel that too.
Yeah, they want us to take, or life wants us to take, to be sovereign.
Yeah,
So that word has been coming up for me more and more.
to be sovereign. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's true. Everything's a co-creation. Everything's an experience, and even our guides. And it's if we truly believe no one is more important than anyone else, then we all have an equal role to play.
But Nimish, I think that what happens is, Eric Fromm wrote that book, Escape from Freedom, I think it's called. Um, to be able to own that I am the creator of my life and life is not happening to me means that I'm up for the consequences of my choices.
So
And
true.
I can stomach that. And really, that's the only thing that's required. I mean, it goes so far as, like, in the Vedantic tradition and stuff, right and wrong is not defined.
Yeah,
It's not as clear. And so the intention is what matters. However, if I can take the consequences of what I did,
yeah,
then you are sovereign to do that. And you know that's why
it
our
is.
mythology is all these stories where you realize that Ravan, who's the bad guy in Ramayan, is actually one of the doorkeepers of Vaikunt of Lord Vishnu. Like, you get it then, you get
Yeah, you
it.
start to. Yeah, and it's kind of true. I'll always say everything in your external world is a result of something in your internal world, and it means that you are responsible. As soon as you feel that something else outside of you is controlling you, then actually, for me, that thought is the problem because you're giving your power away. And I actually feel that's the shift that we're going into now, is the realization that we are sovereign beings. And I love it. I love it. I'm here for it. So I want to. It's really interesting in my life. It's like I've had people show up to guide me, and I've always trusted that people show up when's needed, and people like Sidra and kind of others. So many people have pushed me at different times, and I love our connection and the yin and yang of it, and the kind of the journey that we've had in terms of there's times. There's always been times where we've always kind of both guided each other, and whether it's me guiding you through the records or whatever that looks like, or I asked you to be my therapist for a while, right, and to guide me through the journey. And I remember one particular experience I wanted to share, and that is you guided me to a past life, which was having a big impact on my human existence, right? You guided me to a past life where I drowned. So I was in love with somebody in that life, you know, unconditional love, whatever you want to call it. And then I kind of went through a story of realizing that she was about to leave me. She was on a boat. I somehow got into the boat. We kind of got into a fight, and I was knocked out. I don't know how, but I was knocked out. I fell off the boat, and I was drowning. In that moment of drowning, I was still conscious. I felt helpless because I got knocked out, but I was still semi-conscious, and I was heartbroken. And I brought that energy into this life of kind of almost expecting to be heartbroken, if that makes sense. And we went through a process of reliving that life almost and changing the narrative of that energy. And it's just the reason I bring that up is, even through the records, whatever comes up, so often I have people kind of like wanting to know more about their past lives, and it's really interesting. I really feel that when you need to know something about past life, it will come up in the most natural way. And whether it's through the records or through working with somebody, but it's always your intention. If your intention is, there's something wrong with me, okay, I must find out what that is. Maybe it comes from a past life. That for me is like, that's your intention is to be fixed. If your intention is to understand, okay, you know what, I feel like this, I'm curious, then become a student, become curious. And I feel like the universe will give you your answers. But I
Right.
wanted to acknowledge you, the impact that you had on my life, right? That changed my it changed me at a deep level. And again, this was a while ago, so I'm, and I didn't tell you before I wasn't planning, I wasn't even thinking about sharing this, but it just came up. So, but I wanted to acknowledge that on this journey, when we're ready, people will show up in all forms.
Right. I remember that. Um, and we can't do therapy for friends, but we were doing somatic work together, right? I was This is the skill I have, and I actually don't even do past life regression. It just sometimes emerges
Yeah.
spontaneously with whoever needs to go there. So it's happened a few times, and yours was one of them. So I'm with you completely. In fact, I have never felt attracted personally. I know people who have benefited deeply from it, and I have spontaneously remembered a couple of lives within regular kind of therapy. Um, but I this ties into something that is lingering for me from our last conversation, where about being sovereign, and how when we don't feel good about who we are, it could be because of an imprint from a past life, it could be something internalized in this life, and how when you so many clients will kind of do this to self love, when you talk about that. And so um the journey of being worthy of claiming our sovereignty, that's a big one. you know
The journey of claiming your sovereignty.
Feeling
Love it.
worthy enough.
Yeah. And knowing that everything we need is inside us, right? Knowing that the love we seek is actually the love for self, right? And I really do feel that's the journey that we're on right now. Is maybe it's a good time to check in with our listeners and just really check with yourself and the people in your life. Are you molding yourself to be with them, or are you being authentic? Because that
Exactly.
for me is always a sign, right? If you have to change um, to keep somebody around you, then you're not being authentic. And it's easy for me to say that, by the way. I get it, right? We're in this human experience, and the two things we need, just natively as humans, we want love and we want to avoid pain, right? This is just, but I feel like it's a time to really look at your inner circle and I just ask who in your inner circle is raising your vibration, who is pushing you, who is holding your space,
Right.
and who are you
and,
lowering your vibration to be around.
and another question in this same kind of thing is, in the allowance of who we are, rather than trying to be something, whether it's what our environment wants or whether it's something that we think will give us something in the future. Is, how can I love myself more in this moment? So, like the other day, I was feeling angsty, and and I remembered to ask myself this, and you know it wasn't get up, go for a walk, it wasn't make yourself some coffee, it wasn't call up your best friend. It was really like, I just want to be. So I just let myself be that fully, and I have found, even with clients, and this is maybe what might be a useful takeaway for people, is if you can give it sound, if you can let it come into your face, it really helps with the embodiment, because we have learned to mask. I will be in so much pain, but you will not be able to tell. If you cannot feel my heart, if you were just reading me by my face, right? So to be able to, like, be sad, be angry, be shocked. That's a lot of what is happening with the wars and all of that. Is like the first, I remember when I saw the tanks rolling in the first time, I was like, it was a state of like, this is not really happening right now. Like,
Yeah.
like allowing ourselves, slowing it down, and like giving it and giving voice to something also really helps, even if it feels like role play in the beginning. And sometimes it takes a while to get to the real voice. Like today, someone was trying to embody a particular emotion, and earlier it was like, mm, mm, but in the resonance, I could feel it was more like a oh, angst. And so, but she gets to it. You get to it eventually. So we're just not used to being more mm, natural, like the indigenous, imagine, uh, cultures have more space to be embodied, kind of, crazy, funny, whatever, more, yeah.
I love it. I love it. It's like what we were talking about before we started recording. It's finding the words of where we feel right now. It's kind of like maybe they didn't exist because it's just really about being present, right? It's about we were talking again before we started recording. We were talking about the shift that's going on and the shift that's happening in us, and there's an unknown, right? There's an unknown as to it's just a new way of being. I feel like all of us are experiencing a new way of being, and it's different for everybody. There's no right or wrong. There just is, and maybe there isn't words to describe it. Maybe this is a whole new vibration. Maybe with that, the new vibration, the new shift that's happening. What if it gives us an opportunity just to be present, be present in the
As a
moment?
mass, because people have claimed that for themselves as individuals in history. And also, like, I bet, like, I remember being, it's not the same, like, there's this whole controversy, the pre-trans controversy, like, is the oneness that a child feels, is that the same oneness that an enlightened being feels, and the pre-trans, and it's like that. So for me, I remember being joyful, just sunshine, when I was little. But when the world, so now I'm imagining people actually being able to, let's say, access, and it happens with, I see it in as I work with people, and their energy transforms and they get lighter and they are happier. There is a form of guilt that shows up. So much of the world is in such a bad place, or my immediate partner struggling so much, or my parents, or what, like somehow, but I just know that dimming my light uh, did not end anybody's suffering in the world.
Do you mean my light did not end then? I love it.
So if I could have done their karma for them, but I couldn't, and that's the reality of this. It's almost like when you are codependent, or when you take that on for someone else, you guys are on a pause. You've hit the pause button. You're just looping. Both people are
Yeah.
just looping. So everybody has to take accountability for their own lives. We think we're hanging around because the other person needs us, etc., etc. But both of you are just in pause. you know
I love
so
it.
yeah.
And it's all
So
a soul
I
contract. It's all kind of a journey, right? It's all what's that experience? Sorry, I got I interrupted you. Where were you going next?
No, so I was going to say that this is something I've been saying a lot recently because of the global climate, is that happy people make for a peaceful world. you know
And you know, the chaos that's happening on the planet, I also feel is part of the shift. And do we do and again send love to wherever you want to, and obviously, do what you feel is right. But ultimately also realize that you can't let the outside noise consume you. This journey is all about self. So you, as long as you have self-care, you're looking after you, you're looking for the answers inside you. Because if you let the outside noise consume you, then what you're doing is you're escaping from the healing that you need to do inside and to be present. Again, just my view.
but
The other thing you
Nimesh,
mentioned, go
the
on.
counter to that, I'm just saying, is that a lot of people will say, but like, what is the link between self and other, right? And I just that's why I feel like it's physics, right? You're part of the same ocean. When your vibration shifts, the whole starts to shift. It's just plain physics, you know.
I
So it's
love it.
not about being self-centered. It's the only thing that I control, you know.
It's true. The only thing we really control is this moment and how we feel in this moment, right?
Exactly. This
Um,
matters.
if we take a look at the last few years, how much control do we really have, even of our own life, right? We can control this moment. We can control how we respond to what happens to us. Can't always control what happens to us because,
And thank God. I mean, life is far
yeah,
more creative and fantastic than I am, you know.
I love it. I love it. There's two things that you said that really kind of resonated with me in terms of, the first thing you talked about is, when people reach a certain state, are they the same? Are they in the same state as babies? And it's interesting because I talk about this in I'm sure I've shared on this podcast before. Is when a baby's born, they have no programming. They're being very present. It's like if they cry, they get attention. It's almost like they're NLP masters, right? They're very much kind of being in the moment. And on this journey as souls having human experience, I really feel that's the journey we're on, is to be present, in the moment, and to be is it the same? Is it different? We can debate that for
I
hours.
mean,
I'm
the short of that is that there is a lot to be said for the ego that develops, that you then transcend.
Yeah, and it's
It
releasing,
is,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's the journey we're on, right? We have a veil. We know what we're here to experience as humans. Obviously, if you remembered that we were supposed to experience pain, then if we were aware of it, we might not experience that pain. But as we grow older and the work that we do, the veil becomes thinner, so we start to understand more and more, depending on what we've done and the work we've done.
The veil is thinner, absolutely. I think globally, in general, it's thin. I mean, it just feels.
Yeah, it definitely feels thinner, which is also why our dreams have become more vivid, and I feel our connection to our ancestors, and it's just different. And I just, it's just, so if you're feeling more of that, then no, there is a reason. I actually believe the veil is thinner too. The other thing you mentioned, which again, I always remind my clients of, is we're not here to stop other people's pain.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's like if we're going through, if our partner's going through something, or if somebody we love is going through something, our natural tendency is, because we love them, we don't want them to feel pain. But I'll always remind people, it's like, well, go back to when you felt pain. How much did you grow from that pain? Why would you want to stop somebody's growth by fixing their pain? And that, it's
Yeah.
always a good reminder, right? It's always a good reminder. We're not here to fix people.
And calling us, like, for example, my ex-husband is my best friend, right? Current best friend as well. And before he was my husband, he was my best friend. And it came as a shock to me when it was time for that contract to end for me, like when it felt like my soul needed to do different, move out of that
Sure.
setting. But I just did not want to hurt him because I have so much love for him and he's just so amazing, So it's got nothing to do with him, just that my soul needed, it just wasn't the container in which I was growing anymore, thriving. But the what I realized when I got out was that how much I was my buy-in was that he held my light. He would reflect my light. And I didn't have to own it because he would do it. So
Wow.
there's always something, like I always say, like, what's in it for you? That when we are stuck in that, like, what are you getting out of that? So it could be a sense of self. I'm a good human being. I am who I wanted to grow up to be. It's my idea of being a father or a good citizen or whatever. So
And
owning
also,
that. Yeah.
yeah, and we don't want to cause people pain, right? But here's the thing, pain, I always say pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. And so in certain situations, you've got to look and say, well, hold on, is my soul contract with that person complete? And it doesn't mean that you want to have another soul contract, right? You just talked about, your best friend is, I love how you said, was my best friend, still is my best friend. I think that was really good. But it's recognizing when something has come to an end. And again, it doesn't have to be doom and gloom. It doesn't mean that you can't create something beautiful afterwards, right? It's just, but recognizing that pain is inevitable. And what I mean by that is, if you have a soul contract to experience something with somebody, which may involve pain, then have you experienced what you needed to with that soul contract? And is it complete? Are you staying in a situation because it's comfortable and because you don't want to cause someone else pain? But ultimately, are you causing yourself pain?
Yeah, and I think it's dangerous. I've heard it said the other way around. Like I have some friends who'd say, who get into dangerous kind of dynamics again and again, and they're like, well, I need to learn something from this. And I was like, gosh, that's totally doing it backwards. You've got to move towards what is best for you. The universe has the wisdom. It will give you the situation and circumstances. It's like there was this idea earlier that you had to frustrate your clients in order for their shadow to come out. But the thing is, I can try my 400% to be the best therapist, but I will mess up because that's part of being human. So you don't have to try and frustrate them. Just be you and do your best, and life will do its thing, right?
Yeah, and who
So
decides what's good or bad or frustrating or not?
exactly. So I think that we shouldn't go in to try to learn a lesson. I think that's what I'm saying. That I feel that a lot of people are like going into painful situations saying, I'm going in this direction to learn. I'm like, no, you're going in there because there is something that you need, that you're getting, that you're not owning, and that is more important to you than the other parts of you that are saying stay out, right?
So you're going into the situation to experience pain because you feel like you need to experience pain. That's crazy when you say it out loud, right?
Yeah,
It
it's
doesn't
like,
it doesn't
yeah.
make sense to the logical mind.
So I
So
think that especially a lot of people who are on the spiritual path have that kind of narrative, which I think that we should be clear that it is we are here to be of service to our soul, and we, whenever possible, should choose healthy, happy
100%.
contexts to
Yeah,
take ourselves to, and to face all our fears. I think that discomfort is important.
sure.
I think that
And,
finding our
and
edge, and without, like, again, I work with so many clients who have had lots of trauma, let's say. We never need to go into the narrative. I don't need them to, but we can touch the edge of it, work with the lasting impact and
and
transformation.
it's what the lesson is. Sidra always used to say to people, your story doesn't interest me. I mean, she'd have like 30-minute sessions with people and go through so much and not get into the narrative, because narrative, it's trauma dumping, right? It's like, oh my God, this is my story. And your story doesn't define you. It's what you learned from it, and it's what you've grown from it, and what, it's just, and I really do feel those that, kind of our mentors, guides, maybe we do need to experience things at a deeper level. But we're also here to experience joy. Why would we not experience joy? We're, this life, we chose to be human, so why can't we have fun with it? Why does it always need to be intense and heavy and serious? And I get it, right now the energy is heavy, intense, serious, but
Yeah,
you don't
you
have
say
to do that.
yes to life, whatever shows up,
Cool.
but you don't seek
Yeah.
it out. You absolutely have to, like, saying yes to life and what is in front of you, and being engaged and involved from near to far. People are wanting to engage with what's happening continents away, but they're not wanting to engage with what's happening in their house, in their bedroom, in their locality, stuff like
And we don't always have to be martyrs. It's like I find so many people like who are in this space, oh my God, want to be there for everybody else, but do they really allow people to be there for them? And Sidra, yourself, so many others came into my life when I was open to it.
oh my God,
Healers need
you
healing
came into
too.
my life at such an important juncture. And so graciously, you opened your heart and your time, and we just
Yeah.
became.
And in different time zones, in different, so weird times of the day, we'd find a way, right? So actually, because, just so everyone knows, you're based in India, but you were in Bali for a while. So we had like different,
Which was tough.
maybe I
But
was in the US or I was in London at the time or wherever, we'd always kind of find a way, right?
yeah.
So, and I love some of the conversations we've had, and the kind of I really feel that the kind of the barrier between science and spirituality is becoming less and less. And I always loved your approach to combining conventional ways of working to spirituality. And I'm curious what you feel. Do you feel there's more and more the divide is becoming less and less between what our logical mind needs to understand and kind of where we're going spiritually? How do you
I
feel
mean,
that
I
shift?
think there is no divide. I think we made it up. And so I think your question is, are people more open to seeing? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, are we? Because I find like a lot of people are very mental driven. I used to be, right, in the corporate world. I was very much, and I do feel that people are becoming more open to. There's more evidence coming that spirituality. There is more evidence that it exists, right? Whereas before, it's like if you're of a mental, you want proof, you want proof, you want proof. And I just feel the divide. As you said, we created it, but I feel it's naturally dissolving with the shift that's happening on the planet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that um, so many more men coming up. I've somehow been blessed to always have like almost 45% to 50% male clients. However, the way they're presenting, the heart opening, and so not to say that the men have to do the work only. There's as much work to be done everywhere. However, what I wanted to say about this was I think that science is innocent, you know. I think it's been used from a place of fear to control. So I think that as we are becoming less afraid, or as we are able to breathe through our fear and be present, we don't need to control in the same way. So we don't have to use science to control in the same way. We can allow what is here to be here. And so then the different spokes can all come together.
Wow, beautifully said. Beautifully said. And it's interesting what you said about males, because again, I do, like I said earlier, I feel that the masculine energy, and we all have feminine, masculine energy, is having an identity crisis, right? It is, because in this new world, things are shifting, and it's just so beautiful. I'm here for it. So as we come in kind of to the end of this episode, and I could talk to you for hours. We have talked for
We've
hours.
done that.
I'm sure, yeah, exactly. For most guests that come on here, they have something programmed they want to push, and I love the fact that we just chose to have this conversation. I asked you before, well, is there anything you want to promote? And I love the fact that you just wanted to come here and share what's in your heart, share whatever knowledge you have, the journey that you've been on. So thank you for that.
Hmm.
So I always like to kind of, as we come to the end of the episode, I always like to ask my guests, is there any final advice that you want to share with our listeners? Is there a journal prompt that maybe goes deeper on this journey and the conversation we're having? What's in your heart? What would you like to share?
How can I take life less seriously?
Love it.
Because I have noticed that when I start intensifying stuff, it's dramatic, it's usually my ego.
How can I take less? I love it. That's such a simple question. And, going deep on these journal prompts, and this journey for me always starts with an honest conversation with ourselves. That's why I like to ask questions, about your soul contracts and having that conversation, journaling, and maybe starting with that conversation in the mirror. What stories are you telling yourself? I think is so powerful, because the first stage in kind of the spiritual journey is awareness. And how do you become more aware? As you start to asking different set of questions, and you be honest with yourself with those questions, and from that awareness, you get acceptance, and you have to accept who you are in the moment. Because as we talked about the veil getting thinner, you can help the veil getting thinner by increasing your awareness to who you are, and you do that by having honest conversation with yourself. So thank you for that. I've been asking you to be on this podcast for a while because I know I can feel your beautiful energy, and I just wanted you to share it with the world. You're like one of the best kept secrets, So I wanted to
Oh,
share your knowledge and your wisdom with the world. So thank you for being here. You're such a shining light, and you've had such an impact on me. So thank you.
oh,
Sending so much love and light out to listen to the podcast, and
absolutely.
I'd love to hand it over to you to close us out.
First, gratitude to you, Nimesh, for your presence on this planet
Thank you,
and in my life.
thank you from all my heart. Thank you.
And for being patient, for finally being ready to be seen.
I'm ready.
You're
I'm
ready.
glad you're showing up too.
That's what I mean. For
Yeah,
me, having the patience for me to be ready to show up. And, for the listeners out there, um, something I ask is when there's a painful narrative, like I'm not loved, who would I be if I was loved? You know, most of the thoughts we think are not true. So flip them, play with it, and see where it takes you. Ease is the quality of the soul. Whenever we are contracted, we're in fear, we're in scarcity. That's not the reality of this world.
wow. Wow, I love it. Such a beautiful way to close out this episode. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm sure you'll be back soon. Sending you so much love and light. Bye for now.